Steve Morgan for Fishing Monthly magazines, and I'm here at Northside Marine on the north side of Brisbane. It's a pretty special time for these guys. It's their 50th anniversary after their business was started up here on the Bayside in 1965. And we've got a very special treat for you. We've caught up with Keith Nickerson as well as his son Greg to hear some of the history of this iconic Brisbane customer-focused marine dealership.
I think basically from the start of growing up in Sandgate, Shorncliffe area, seeing the sailing boats there of a weekend, going down and helping them roll up sails and lift the boats in the water and all that sort of thing from about 10 years of age, and just sort of grew up amongst it that way because we live very close to the water. I happened to be walking down the first or second ever boat show they had at the Brisbane Exhibition Grounds, and I just recovered from a accident I'd had, and I couldn't drive my truck anymore, and this fellow had opened up an agency for Rolly Tasker Sales in Brisbane, and he asked me what I was doing, and I said, oh, I'm buggered, I can't drive the truck anymore, I don't know what I'm going to finish up doing. So then he turned around and said, well, do you still use your hands? I said, yeah. So he gave me a job, offered me a job part-time, screwing bits and pieces onto small little sabots, which were very, very popular then, because he was selling the fittings for those and wanted someone to screw them into place and all that sort of thing. I think that took quite a while, and virtue came about through getting more involved, because as we started actually putting into the first time we went into a boat show, just pegboard, four pegboard stands with all little fittings bolted onto them and little bits and pieces like that, and all of a sudden someone wanted me to get a trailer for a little sabo. So to do that I couldn't buy a trailer off the then trailer manufacturers because I didn't have an outboard motor franchise. So I found an outboard motor franchise, a little air-cooled, I just forget the name of the brand now, and once I had that I could buy a trailer, and so from there I got the trailer, and on and on and on it went, and eventually I got round to the fact of selling some outboard motors, second-hand outboard motors, for a big marine business in Brisbane, and they gave me some motors to put on the little tiny shop we had, and we started selling those, and then they suggested that I turn around and see if I could get hold of a Johnson outboard motor franchise. So I made an application, had to find bigger premises than what we had, got that, and sure enough I became a Johnson outboard motor dealer. When I first applied for those, for the Johnson franchise, they turned around and told me that no, you couldn't do it there because you've got to have some sort of a workshop facility. So I scratched around Sandgate and I found an old store right in the heart of the shopping centre at Sandgate, and I leased a property there, and very, very economical, and was able to buy a few outboard motors to put on display, and lo and behold I started selling the new motors, and then I had to turn around, because I was selling them, I had to turn around and go to Sydney to do the service course, which I did, and rolled on further from there, got bigger and bigger and bigger, eventually had to employ a mechanic, and that worked out as a good bonus because he was a very good mechanic. He had a tremendous lot of experience in the Johnson outboard motors, and just grew and grew and grew. 2 or 3 tinnies, up to 14-foot tinny, I think it was about the big one, the biggest I could afford to buy, because you don't get these stuff so it's on invoice, you've got to pay for them as you go. And we just grew and grew and grew, and that would have been, well, the first 3 motors I had to buy was a 2 horsepower, 4 horsepower and a 6 horsepower motor to get the franchise going. And lo and behold, we sold those quickly enough, and so we just had to keep whatever we made out of things just went back into productivity to put on to a product rather to put on the floor. Well, the best I think I ever sold in the first 12-18 months would have been 30 or 40 horsepower. And then eventually we got up into bigger ones, of course. The biggest we ever sold, the biggest rig we ever put out was 125 horsepower on a 20-foot fiberglass boat. Just an interest I took in them when I used to see them when I go down every year to the Melbourne Boat Show where they're made, and I tried a few times to get a a dealership off them, but I wasn't big enough at that stage. I didn't think well, they thought I wasn't big enough to be able to do justice to the Whittley brand. And of course I used to tell Greg about how good they were, and he came down with me a couple of times and saw them and got to know them and got to know the Whittley family, and lo and behold, it's all on. Greg was the main stayer in getting the Whittley brand into Northside now. Some of BLA blokes, they were good blokes to get on with. They'd do their utmost to help you and let you know what's going on around the rest of the industry. One fellow, I can't think of what his name was, he was one from one of the finance companies and insurance companies. He was always good for a fresh joke every time he came in. He came in with a fresh joke of some sort, and got to know him pretty well. And he turned out a bit of a character. Watching your expenses, I suppose you'd say, because of, you know, walk before you leap, or whatever the words they used to say for those sort of things. You know, tread carefully, watch your back, watch your pocket, and just keep a tight control on things. It came about pretty well for the fact of the matter that I was starting to get a few years under my tail, and wasn't as active as what I was. And Greg took the bull by the horns and said he'll have a go, and I said, yeah, righto. Well, what'll we do about it? And he said, well, I want to do the whole lot myself. So we worked out a plan, and I just stepped backwards and didn't have any influence right from the word go, virtually. I think Greg picked up the more modern style of doing business easier than what I did. I had some ideas in my mind, of course, that go back to the older times, as you're talking of. I think the follow-on that Greg took on there was very successful, and both my wife and myself, she was a partner in the business, of course, we thought that he was doing a damn good job, and I'd be much better off keeping my nose out of it, which I did do. How proud can you get? 100%. Oh yes, the public the boating public who kept coming back to us, and obviously that's the thing that the business is growing on, repetition business, upgrading them for boats and motors and that sort of. We've still got some same loyal customers, haven't we?
Absolutely, for sure.
And Greg often tells me, oh, so-and-so came in the other week, he was in here asking about you and wanted me to know that his boat's still going strong and all that sort of business, you know, and which is good to hear. Good to hear. The name stuck, and of course I don't subscribe to the theory that you got these people for life if you do the wrong thing. And it's very pleasing to hear these people my own age even coming in and asking about how am I going and all that sort of caper, which is quite pleasing for myself personally.
I suppose it's not dissimilar to what Dad was saying earlier, that I was involved in sailing from a very early age in Cabbage Tree Creek in the local area. Most likely 6 or 7 years of age, I suppose, and I sailed then competitively right through to my early 20s. So we were just always around the water. We lived at Brighton, and on the way home we'd pop in there and there'd always be something to do. But I loved it. I loved mucking around with the boats. I loved whether that was a bit of sailing gear or getting the boats ready for somebody or sharing our experiences, I suppose. And that was one of the great things that we've had in this boating business. We get to share our experiences with people, and we help to create dreams in that way. And I was helping people start their dreams, and I was dreaming at the same time as well. So very much so I was involved, and then I do Saturday work as well through my schooling. Well, I suppose that germination was over a 10 or 12 year period, and I had explored it a little bit before the actual the buyout, most likely, which was around 86, 87. But of course, that's when you're a bit younger and you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof and could do anything you like. But the reality of life was we couldn't afford that, and we were able to do this with the support of my mum and dad as well. So it wasn't anything other than their support that helped this happen. But yeah, I must say I had a passion for it, and by the same token with that, it was most likely important that I was able to mould it in the way that I thought that we wanted to go. I will share a funny old story there, because I do remember Dad and I having a discussion one day, and it was about the time fax machines came in. And I said, Dad, I reckon we should get one of these fax machines. I think that'd be pretty good. And he's like, oh, I don't know whether we need really one of those or not. And I suppose it was around by that time I thought, I think it is about time now we just get on with the job and do things in a more modern way. And now I'm the one who's being challenged by people within my organisation to keep up with technology. Yeah, look, one of the major things was that as the years went on, and we had about 4 or 5 moves around the Sandgate area, Sandgate, Deagon and so on. In that period of time though, we found that one of our shops in Rainbow Street at Sandgate, we had a very small service department back, and service is a very important part of our business. Has always been and will always be a part of it. With that, we then outgrew the small area we had. We did have a very good mechanic, a guy called Ian McIntyre, since passed unfortunately, but he was a terrific guy, very, very talented. And that grew the business in the service side of it. So with that, we then needed to find a separate area for our service department. So for 25 years, Northside Marine had a sales department in one location and a service department about 3 or 4 kilometres away. Now, that was terrific because it gave us space and everything else as well. But the logistics of having the two separated was really challenging. The great thing was when we came to Boondall, to our present site now, which is on 10,000 square metres, we were able to put it all together. So therefore, we could then have our service department with our sales and our parts and accessories all on the one site and give everyone room to park. Everything on this site, for example, is off the road. Whether you're parking with your car and your trailer. Interesting enough, we have many ladies who bring the boats in for service because they don't have to back it. It's all simple that way. So that was mostly one of our greatest things that happened at the time when we moved to the new site, was we got over that challenge of having our sales and our service department as 2 separate entities. Yeah, the GFC was most likely the major stumbling point that we had in my career within the industry. And we've got to put that in perspective. In the years most likely from late 2008 to late 2009, boat sales in the industry generally, and us personally, dropped by 50%. Somewhere is 60%. It was an enormous drop. Now that needed some recalculating with people and so on, but one thing that was vitally important to us at that stage was our key people had to be maintained and retained within our business, because that really is our assets. That's our major assets, is our people that deal with our customers. So there's really 3 things to a great formula. Is customers number 1, and vitally important, number 1 in priority altogether. Number 2 is to have great staff and people who are passionate about boating. You've got to have a bit of salt water in your veins to be in this place. And you've got to really know what you're talking about as well. So with that, we have those 2 ingredients. The last one is mix it with top quality product. And if you can mix those 3 things together, that will see you through most stormy seas. And that really, I think, has been part of our philosophy over that period of time, which was challenging and which we saw a lot of our competitors disappear off the radar in the boating scene. And in that time, we've continued to grow, and now very happily say that we're now up to pre-GFC figures and past them substantially. Yeah, well, we've got a lot of key staff that way. We have a couple of staff who are well over 30 years with us, and those 2 people is Wayne Cross, who Wayne is our operations manager, my 2IC, and also the service manager of the operation. And then we've got Glenn Riley, who's been with us once again in well over 30 years as well. And Glenn is in the parts and accessories department, and most likely has forgotten more about echo sounders and GPSs than what we'll all learn in our lifetime. Then we've got Bill Hull, Bill heads up the boat sales department. Now Bill has been with us 25, 28 years, whatever it may be, and once again you can't find a man that's more passionate and more experienced in boating and putting rigs together for people at the same time. And then there's a whole range of people at 20 years and 15s, and so it goes down the track from there as well. The culmination of our 50th anniversary will be on July 18th and 19th of 2015, because 1965 was the year that my dad started the whole business off, and it will be a fantastic weekend. It will be like a boat show. We'll have plenty of displays. We've got Boating and Fisheries Patrol people coming along. We'll have Jamie Whincup, the racing car champion, who's one of our Malibu ambassadors, will be coming along to say good day to some people as well. It looks like, I think, the Yamaha Super Tank will be here for fishing seminars as well at the same time. We've also locked in with Camp Quality to give them support for the kids with cancer. And there'll be a commemorative 50-year fishing shirt, which will be sold on the day with 100% of the proceeds going to Camp Quality. So we'd love people to come down, enjoy the day. There's no cost to get here at all. Get in the place. There'll be some great bargains. There'll be some great specials on the day as well. Buy one of the shirts, support Camp Quality because it's a fantastic organisation, and just be part of our day, part of our celebration. It'll be running both Saturday and Sunday, so come along and enjoy it. Our mantra here at Northside Marine is that we are your boating partners for life. And I suppose we came to that conclusion that we could actually say that after 20 or 30 years in the business, because we've seen now generational sales. Not just the sale occasionally, we've had fathers come through with their sons and even now their grandsons, which is just terrific. So we felt that after that 20 or 30 years, we had earned the right to be able to call ourselves your boating partners for life, and we love doing that. So Northside Marine, we're situated at 2294 Sandgate Road at Boondall. So that's about, for people who are out of the Brisbane area, it's about 20 minutes north of the Brisbane Airport, along the main arterial road going out of town. You can check out all the details at www.nsmarine.com.au, or you can give us a call on our landline 3265 8000.